Boy, I hope you can hear me. Ideally, you should be able to see me. And in a best case scenario, we are going to spend a delightful hour or so together here on today's edition of Everything Else. I'm Joshua Brisco. The show's brought to you by KC Cannabis Company, and I'm here alone today. Tucker Franklin and Nick Springer are both either on airplanes as we speak or about to be. Tucker has given me every tool at my disposal for me to run the show nothing but ISO ball. I wish Nick was here because I would say right now we'd run your favorite play, HB dive. Not today. Today, JB dive. Just me, up the middle, 3 yards in a cloud of dust for as long as you care to be here, to listen, to hang out here, to kick off 2026. Happy New Year's to one and all. And I'll say, if we're on top of it, and depending on how multitask able I am able to keep my level today, this might be a great day to bring some questions, concerns, and thoughts to the chat where Alex says, I am in fact being heard and seen right now, which is kind of the only thing that matters to me in my life. Today may be a great day to bring your questions and comments into the live chat here on the KCSN YouTube channel. It may be a terrible day to do it. It's just going to be a matter of if I can read and think and talk at the same time. I've had some practice. I think we're going to be all right here, and I hope everyone had a lovely New Year's Eve. It is a beloved holiday here in our household. We had a very small get-together of close friends for New Year's Eve, but that's always something that Renee's kind of brought the energy for, and then a few years ago, I proposed on New Year's Eve, like right at midnight. I nailed it, folks. I gotta tell you, I simply nailed it. But it was nice to ring in the new year that way. I did find out for the first time, I think something that Hopper, the three-legged miniature schnauzer that rules my life now, one thing that he apparently isn't a huge fan of is those party horns, you know? Not his favorite. He went upstairs, even though all the people and the action and the horns were all downstairs. That was the first thing I learned in 2026, was that Hopper the dog doesn't care for the party horns. I appreciate the comment from Riley. Says, who's up ethically tanking right now? Alex says, every day. And Happy New Year's throughout the chat. Appreciate everybody being here with us on, what is it, January 2nd. This is not a complaint. I am incredibly grateful for all of this. But man, holidays have just been on like Thursday, Tuesday, Wednesday night. It doesn't really matter. I have been in a total haze of holiday season, football season. That, of course, comes with the territory. Riley says, glad to see your dog in the Stranger Things finale this week. We are not caught up on Stranger Things, so you keep your pesky spoilers out of the chat. We'll try to catch up some tonight. I watched college football yesterday, believe it or not. That was fun, until it wasn't. It was mostly fun. I'm not going to talk about that today. I am going to talk about who's up ethically tanking their team right now. I don't know. This is something we've talked about. Defis says this whole season has been one big haze. That is true. That is true, accurate, and this show's brought to you by KC Cannabis Company. I wanted to talk about how we got here, and like Robert, I'm gonna star some questions throughout. Like Robert asked Josh, "Who's your pick in the first round?" Look, I'm gonna be a Carnell Tate hoper until the hope is gone. I have a few things that I love the idea of. We're gonna have months to nail down the picks and the draft crushes and all that. Again, I will try to save some questions for later if that comes around. Riley says it felt like an odd choice when the X-Men showed up in the Upside Down, but at this point, you just roll with it. I mean, I have to assume that that's true. All the same companies own all the IP now, I think. I wasn't sure about Netflix and Marvel, but I have no choice to take it at face value. But something Chiefs adjacent that if you've been listening to Only Weird Games, you have probably heard me get more and more annoyed about over these last several weeks, and it is the very use of the word tanking. And then this morning, Shehan Jarada of CBS Sports, he quote tweeted a tweet about tanking and about how, major sports could solve tanking forever if they abolished the draft. Now, look, I'll say I'm not entirely against the concept of abolishing drafts in professional sports. I think there are other ways you could do that would be fun and rewarding and all of that. But tanking is not the reason that I have my draft hesitance. And also, it's not going to change. The NFL has found a way to make it another leg of the season. Obviously, we here at KCSN love that part of the season. So, I understand wanting to shake some things up that way, but Shehan said, quote tweeting this tweet that, about tanking in the draft or whatever. Shehan added, "Tanking isn't that big a deal, and I don't really get why we talk about it so much. Even in the most extreme example, the Sixers had 3 years of being really miserable. Plenty do that by accident with nothing to show for it." And I was so glad to see that tweet this morning because it really clarified what I want to spit. This show today is going to be a little bit of Chiefs Raiders, a little bit of big picture, a little bit of draft, and I'm going to talk for as long as I feel like about my media faves of 2025. I got movies, I got video games, I got music. We're going to talk about that in the back half of the show. But this entire line of thinking has been at the top of my mind for obvious reasons these last several weeks. The thing that I just think we ought to reset the term on, the thing that I think we can reset the floor here, no one in the NFL was tanking this year. You think about it for a second, but it's true. Right now, the Raiders are just one more happy little loss away from ending with the number 1 overall pick, maybe getting their quarterback of the future at 1-1, maybe trying to find an impact elsewhere, but the Raiders are about to have the number 1 overall pick as long as they don't beat the Chiefs on Sunday. You remember how they got here, the Las Vegas Raiders? They hired old head coach Pete Carroll. They traded for Geno Smith, and they opened the season with a win over the New England Patriots. The Raiders weren't tanking this year. They tried to get better and failed. You can go down the list. The Giants didn't tank because Brian Daboll wanted to keep his job. The Jets didn't tank. They're trying to, for the 500th time, trying to reboot with a new era, and we'll see how that goes. The Titans had the number 1 overall pick last year. They're working around their quarterback, and as D-Fizz notes, the Titans sure didn't because they kicked the Chiefs A****. Thank you for keeping it clean, D-Fizz. There are kids here. I don't know if that's true or not. Hey, ask your mom or dad or legal guardian if you should be on YouTube right now. It's January 2nd. You totally should. This is a fine place for you. We'll keep you safe here. You can join the vibe hunters. Don't go looking for mushrooms. And don't eat any mushrooms that you don't know about, kids. Don't go eating wild mushrooms. Is this the most family-friendly show on KCSN? I'm not asking anyone here, because no one else is in here. If anyone in the chat has another argument, I'm willing to hear it. I think this is the most family-friendly show on KCSN. Anyway, I digress. Kids, that means I'm going to stop talking about the sidetrack I was on and then come back to the main topic. That's what it means to digress. The other thing with the Chiefs, this is where I yelled at Nate on Weird Games yesterday. And Nate knows. Nate's being Nate. Nobody's better at nating than Nate Taylor. But no one in the NFL was tanking this year. The Chiefs certainly have not been tanking since they were eliminated from playoff contention. They've gotten beat. They lost Patrick Mahomes, lost to the Chargers, Gardner Minshew comes out, and they got beat by the Titans. And they played guys who could play. They didn't tank, they lost. Tanking is something that takes longer. I'm old enough to remember suck for luck. That didn't start in week 16. That's something from early on. I remember the talk of Tua Tagovailoa in that year's draft. I don't remember what the cute little rhyme was, and obviously Tua didn't end up going 1-1. He went 4, right, I think? Well, and so there's the next step of this that I'm not going to try to pronounce this person in the chat's name, who said, the Jets kind of tanked once trades began, fired staff, etc. I disagree with that too, a little bit. That's closer, but no one entered defense says that football show is pretty family friendly. Look, that football show is a great show. Matt Verderam Fired Up is a NC-17 must-listen podcast. But here's the thing that I would argue with a little bit on the Jets, and that certainly I argue with the Chiefs and the Raiders and all of that now. There is another degree of short-term best interest as opposed to long-term best interest. In this case, the example is that I would say Brashard Smith should play more than Kareem Hunt on Sunday, even though Kareem Hunt is a better NFL running back right now. That's not because I simply want the Chiefs to lose. If I simply wanted the Chiefs to lose, they should play me at running back. I would use the healthcare, I would take the game check, and it would, go on to feed Renee and the dogs after I died on my first carry. But the reason that I want Brashard Smith instead of Kareem Hunt on Sunday isn't so they lose on purpose, tanking. It's because Brashard Smith's future is still to be determined. It is important for the long haul. Drew Tranquill is a better NFL linebacker right now than Jeffrey Bassa, but Jeffrey Bassa is going to be here next year. I don't know if Drew Tranquill will. That's still not being intentionally non-competitive. The New Orleans Saints have been one of the most non-competitive teams in football in this weird purgatory for frankly what feels like a decade now. They have accidentally won all of these football games. They've won 4 in a row to bring themselves from 2-10 to 6-10. And so right now they're picking in the same cluster as the Chiefs and the Bengals for 3 6-10 teams. The Saints aren't tanking. They're trying to build. The Jets aren't tanking. They're trying to build. They're doing it badly. And they are doing some things to, okay, well, this coach was not the answer and all of that. Again, the Raiders are resting Max Crosby and Brock Bowers because it's in the best interest of their futures. Right? If Trey Smith probably not playing in this game on Sunday, if he really needed to play, and if this was to make the playoffs, I think Trey Smith probably plays. They're not just sitting Trey Smith because that's going to cost the Chiefs 10 points. It's not how it works. He doesn't need to play through any more injuries at this point. His health is more important, and there's a benefit of if you lose the game, you get a better draft slot. So that to me is it's all this kind of this quagmire of I'm being nitpicky on the terminology, but it's just because I think tanking is a completely different organizational thing. And back to the point about the 76ers, who were truly honest to God tanking, and you have a player that's good enough, you trade him away for more picks. They were trying to line up their timeline. They're trying to build an organization that would have a higher ceiling than a team like, let's say, the New Orleans Saints in the last several years, stuck in purgatory. I'm not even morally opposed to the idea of relatively tanking. If the Raiders said, you couldn't really do it with Pete Carroll, but let's say it's the Titans, well, they have the quarterback. It's going to have to be the Jets. I was going to try to avoid using the Jets, but it's going to have to be the Jets because it feels like they have the least to work with right now. The Jets trade away Sauce Gardner and Quinnen Williams, they get draft picks. They're resetting the timeline. If they traded out of the 3rd overall pick because they didn't like their options at quarterback or whatever, and they trade back to 15 and they get a future 1st round pick or whatever it is, if they say, hey, we are going to let our young guys play this year, we're going to roll over salary cap space, and we're going to load up on draft picks in 2027 and 2028, you get that very rarely because the NFL is such a short-term league. You do have so much turnover on a yearly basis. Every team is a couple good draft picks away from at least being middle of the pack. So you don't see teams do this. But if the Jets did it, it would still be a reasonable thing to do in terms of just what's the best chance of us winning a Super Bowl this decade? Maybe it's that. I'm digging into the nitpicky semantics of it all, but I don't think Chiefs Raiders, I don't think what these seasons have been for either team, I don't think tanking is the right word. Which does bring us to the actual game itself. I will dig into, I've got my one worry, one wish. I've got a couple of things that do stand out about this. the tanking adjacent thing is that everyone on that football field has to be playing to win, because there's just no other way to be. I know I've said this before, so I'm not going to belabor this point today as well. I feel like I'm going to belabor everything, just by the nature of the fact that no one can stop me. I'm not going to wait for anyone to say something back, because I would be sitting here for dead air. The best I can do is take a long sip of my coffee, and we can just sit in silence together. Look at this. It's a Calvin and Hobbes mug that I got for Christmas from my mother-in-law. It was warmer 20 minutes ago before I talked for 20 straight minutes. Funny how that works. If you're playing in an NFL football game, you are playing to win it, because doing anything less than that is doing a disservice to yourself and to your teammates and to your opponent in some way. Injuries happen. Missed assignments happen. You can't go less than 100% if you're on the field. So I do want to see certain guys on the field being allowed to give 100%. That's my hope for this game. But I've also got a couple other hopes. I don't know if you were visited by Santa Claus for Christmas. I don't know if you're a house that's visited by the Easter Bunny. I don't know if you... Look, this is a family-friendly show. I don't know if you're a Tooth Fairy household. I don't know what sort of mystical creatures occupy your family's lore. But I do know what you can get. Guaranteed. If you'd like, you can be visited by the Mystery Snail. You go to bit.ly/mystery snail, and frankly, I'd kind of like to stop talking about it now. I would kind of like for that to be the only sales pitch. If you and your family would like to be visited by the Mystery Snail on a monthly basis, go to bit.ly/mystery snail. I want to hit the break. I really do. I think that would be funnier. But I told you this a couple of weeks ago, right before Christmas. You had a chance for a last-minute Christmas gift. Well, now you have a chance for a year-round gift, or just an awesome thing that you can get on a monthly basis. This is from, as she said, Tucker Franklin's favorite independent artist, my wife Renee. She has the Mystery Snail Mail Club that you can sign up for, bit.ly/mystery snail, or if you're really good at spelling, you can go to renaissance.art/club, and that will get you there as well. Ooh, Alec says it's a snail's pitch. Thank you, Alec. I am gonna keep using that one. That's a winner, and you get an extra sticker this month. Renee, give Alec an extra sticker, please. I don't know if I have the authority to do that. But in your first mystery envelope, you get a special sticker of... Hold on, I moved them back here. Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, the Mystery Snail. It's a Sir Arthur Conan Doyle thing. The guy who wrote Sherlock, not the snail. The snail didn't write. It doesn't matter. And if you sign up for the Mystery Snail Mail Club and you say that you heard about this from Everything Else, you get the inaugural run of our possum Everything Else sticker guy. This is what rotates on the screen before the video stream begins. Renee colored it and everything, and I love them. Look at that. See that microphone? That's a Blue Yeti microphone. Look at that. You could argue, is this possum me? Inspired by me? Just the mascot of the show? I don't know. That's up to you to find out. Fill in your own lore as necessary. But you get stickers. You can get prints. You can get a whole variety of things that Renee is making as Renaissance art. It's all obviously incredibly locally produced. These stickers, you know where these stickers are coming from? They're not coming from the internet. They're not coming from some giant sticker manufacturer overseas. They're coming from our basement where I watch football. That very one and the only. That's how they're made in Kansas City, Missouri, by hand and by Renee. So I don't have all the other art prints and stuff up here that I showed off on right before Christmas. But you get signed up for $5 a month at level 1 or $10 a month at level 2. You can pay in subscription, in monthly increments for the subscription, or you can do a whole year up front and get 2 months free. So $50 for a full year of level 1 or $100 for a full year of level 2. I think I've hit the main things. They get mailed to your inbox every month. Real mail, snail mail, mystery snail mail. Oh, that's why he's called the Mystery Snail. That makes sense. So you can do that if you, again, say you've heard about it from Everything Else. You get the possum guy. I think I've hit the majority of the things, but you can see all the details and the rest of Renee's art at bit.ly/ Mystery Snail. Another local company that I tell you about every single show that has been an absolutely incredible partner of ours here at Everything Else is Kansas City Cannabis. They've had all sorts of incredible holiday sales going on throughout the last couple of months. What you'll be amazed to find out if you haven't checked in yet is that they seem to just have unbelievable deals all the time. They're also this is obviously extremely important to me. If it wasn't, I don't think I'd highlight it as often. I'm wearing one of my KC Heart t-shirts right now. They are Kansas City Cannabis. They are based in Kansas City. They are owned and community rooted in Kansas City. Again, not some big conglomerate that came in and tried to bulldoze the market. This is Kansas City Cannabis with 5 KC area locations: KC North, Blue Springs, Kearney, Excelsior, and Lottawanna. The store locations are incredible. Very cool. Great vibe in there where I don't know, some dispensaries, you're trying to figure out, like, what's actually going on in here? And then some dispensaries, like, this is weird that it looks like a doctor's office. KC Cannabis has a very warm and inviting vibe at all 5 of those locations, and the bud tenders there will lead you down whatever path you're curious about. Ask them their questions. There are no foolish questions. There are no dumb questions. You just might not know where you want to begin or what's right for you. That's why I trust the bud tenders at KC Cannabis. You can check them out online at kccannabis.com. That's kccannabis.com.
Looking for premium products in Kansas City? Whether you're new to the world of dispensaries or a seasoned enthusiast, we've got just what you're looking for. Proudly Kansas City owned and operated, with 5 convenient locations in Kearney, Blue Springs, Excelsior Springs, KC North, and Lake Lottawanna. And our knowledgeable team can help educate and guide you so you can feel confident in every choice you make. Come see for yourself what makes us the most trusted name in Kansas City.
All right, let's do the one worry, one wish, and a couple other things that I've got in mind for Chiefs Raiders, and then we'll get into the 2025 media roundup of it all. I do want to see the young guys here. That's obvious. I do think, and by the way, also in the tanking conversation, I don't blame you, Chiefs fans, for not wanting to end the year with losses to the Broncos and Raiders. I don't blame you for not wanting, we'll get to Travis Kelce. I don't blame you for not wanting Travis Kelce's potential final game to be a loss in Las Vegas to end a sad season on a long losing streak of, at that point, 6 in a row if they do lose on Sunday. I'm not telling you how you need to root here. Also, if Andy Reid wins this game, he will go back to sole ownership of the winningest head coach in Allegiant Stadium history, which is hilarious. But with all that being said, I do think this game deserves a preseason-ish mindset, and I don't think that means what many people may think it means. Because part of the thing in the preseason is you don't care about the result. But again, the players out there do. The reason that this feels like a preseason game to me, and not even in like a derogatory way, is that this game is about further evaluation. This game is about making sure you know what you've got from a few guys here. And just like in the preseason, everyone who's on the field has plenty to play for. Do not call this a meaningless game. Do not say that there's nothing to play for here. That's not true. The guys who are going to be on the field, Mike Caliendo's got to prove that he deserves to keep being this 6th lineman kind of guy. If Hunter Norzad ends up out there, it's because he's trying to prove that he needs to be on this roster next season. Everybody who you're thinking about, if you're tired of seeing Juju Smith-Schuster over Jalen Royals, well, Juju's going to have this tape in whatever his agent sends out to the league this year. I'd rather see Jalen Royals because I want to know if he's going to be in the mix, but there is meaning in this game for the players who are playing it. The Chiefs, obviously, organizationally, long-term, better to lose it. I also don't think you can just do that. I don't blame Andy Reid for going up to the podium the 3 times a week or whatever over these last few weeks and talking about wanting to win the football game. I thought what Steve Spagnuolo said last week was great, where it was like a minute of him just talking about how the best hour of his life is the hour in the locker room after the game after a win, regardless of when you get it. And that's what he'll miss when he's no longer coaching football. I think that's beautiful. I loved that clip of his. So I don't blame anybody involved for trying to win this football game. I just want you to do it while using the game as the canvas that it is, the evaluation process that it can kick off. That's what I'm rooting for. And on that note, over at KCSN.com, the, let's see, Kent Swainson, I believe. Kent Swainson wrote at KCSN.com about how the Chiefs can end up at different draft pick positioning. They can get as high as 8 or as low as 12. They can beat the Raiders and end up picking 10, just to kind of set the floor there. If they lose to the Raiders, they could get 8 or 9. And look, I'd rather have 8 than 12. Obviously, I'd rather have 8 than 10. Guys, I'd rather have 9 than 10, believe it or not. The higher picks are generally better, and I'm very curious to see where the first-round grade cutoff ends up being, because that's something we've talked about a lot over the years. I just looked this up earlier. I think Veach said last year there were 12 or 13 first-round grades, and it was kind of a down year. It sounds like this also might be kind of a down year. Hopefully there are at least 12 first-round grades, because I think you just want to be on the right side of getting an impact player, hopefully a blue chip player. So something to note there that, again, they could beat the Raiders, and if the Falcons beat the Saints and the Bengals beat the Browns, from Kent's math, that gets you to 10. If you beat the Raiders, the Saints beat the Falcons, and the Bengals beat the Browns, you get 11. So root for the Saints, root for the Bengals. I'm not going to tell you to root for the Raiders, right? That's my heart right now. That's where I'm coming from. On the worry and wish front, it's all totally... Oh, I missed this earlier, that Chloe, my sister, has noted for Renee's Snail Mail Club. They are AI-free. That is absolutely true. The only AI involved is the... Boy, I was kind of going to come up with a... No Allen Iverson. Maybe that was it. Yeah, no, completely. Handmade, hand-drawn, beautifully crafted. No artificial intelligence needed. Just human artistic influence. The only AI Renee uses is artistic influence. Got there. Ice Pirate says, too bad this isn't a year with 6 quarterbacks in the top 15. I keep thinking that too, man. I keep thinking, man, anybody else want to reach on a quarterback? Anybody want to climb up there? And anybody want to go get a third quarterback out of this top 10? I don't know. And look, I don't know. I could we're way out in advance here. The Chiefs could move up. They could move down. It wouldn't surprise me. I think you want to be on the right side of that cutoff, but if you're the last team on the right side of that cutoff and somebody else wants to move up and give you a payout, I would get it. I would could definitely see them having one defensive lineman they love above the rest, or just knowing that there's a limited number of potential blue chippers there and then moving up a couple spots for one. I do think there's a chance for that. Also, D-Fizz says it's an Ojosham about the possum earlier. I'll take that, D-Fizz. That's pretty funny. Okay, here's my worry and my wish, all intertwined in an unsurprising way. My worry may be fulfilled already. My worry may not be solvable. My worry is that we go into the offseason without enough to evaluate Brashard Smith, Jeffrey Bassa, and Jalen Royals. And Omar Norman Lott, who obviously is done. He's been on IR for a while. I think we have enough to say that Brashard Smith should have played more. I hope he plays plenty on Sunday. I can't believe he didn't get a carry either of these last 2 weeks. The thing that I'm frustrated about isn't if the Chiefs win or lose, it's do those guys get NFL film. And now you're playing a Raiders team that's really thinned out their group and they stunk already. So I am worried that we're going to go in the next year purely projecting Jeffrey Bassa just like we did out of the draft. And that feels not like a wasted rookie season, but like an under-maximized one. You got through an entire year and you've got like 10 snaps of this guy who you might need to start for you next year if you don't want to invest in that position. You let Tranquil walk and you don't want to have to spend several $1 million to fill in with another veteran there. I want to know what he can do. And maybe that's been decided in practice and it's bad news. Maybe the Jaden Hicks thing last year has left the Chiefs cold, where he did play more later in the year. He did come on strong, and then he had a tough season here in year 2. But you have to find out. I don't want to end up spending the entire offseason where most of this draft class is still an unknown quantity. And right now, that's a real threat. There's a real chance of that. Noah Williams has played enough that I think that he's got a bright future. He hasn't played all year, but I think you've seen the sparks there. Ashton Gelati, similar, although when Spags said yesterday, Steve Spagnuolo was asked about Ashton Gelati. And he said, he's like what he's doing. He's been ascending as a player, doing this. And he said something like, I kind of wish we could have gotten him some more snaps earlier in the year. It would have been nice. But yeah, he's been good. Mr. Spagnuolo, who's in charge of that? Who decides who's in your defensive end rotation? Who plays Mike Dana and Charles Omenihu over him when you wanted Gelati out there? I digress, and I don't think his point is all that serious. It's like, oh yeah, maybe he even means it would have been nice for him to force his way onto the field a little more aggressively with his play. But I did hear that, and I briefly had steam out my ears. Not because I wanted more from Gelati. I'm frankly totally fine with Ashton Gelati's rookie season, but it made me think about how you evaluate Jeff Bassa this offseason. I don't know. And Ice Pyro mentioned that there's a gap in how the coaches care about live snaps versus how we all care about live snaps. I think that's true. And again, also, we're not seeing all of those snaps in practice. My hunch, I don't know this. This is a hunch, and I hope it's wrong, frankly. My hunch is that Jalen Royals has simply not popped in practice. Bassa's weird because he has kind of popped in some very small looks. But yeah, it just might be a place where they're not that interested in putting Royals out there because they're pretty sure they know how it's going to go. The problem is you do still see there's been more explosiveness from Brashard Smith and the rest of the running back room combined. There's been more explosiveness from Jeffrey Bassa and some speed out there. He's not like a freak athlete of a linebacker, but I guess the most athletic linebacker they have other than Leo Chanel, a very different build of guy. So I know we're going to go in the next season with more questions than answers about Omar Norman-Lott and Jalen Royals. We're probably going to have more questions than answers about Jeffrey Bassa and probably about as many questions as answers for Brashard Smith. And then there's my wish for this game. This really is a wish because I have no idea how it's going to go, and it's kind of out of everyone's control. My wish is that this is not the end for Travis Kelce. He could have walked after the Super Bowl last year, and it would have been kind of sad, but it would have been 3 straight Super Bowl appearances, won 2 of them. You didn't get the three-peat, but it would have made sense. Coming back this year already felt like an extra year, even though I always thought that 2-year contract that he signed 2 years ago made a lot of sense as his retirement plan. They've obviously he's got a busy life happening, it seems. Plenty of life after football. I don't want this to be the way it ends. I also certainly would not begrudge Travis Kelce 1% if he says, hey, look, this isn't the way I would have written the ending, but it's time to go. Wouldn't blame him one bit. But if I am just wishing I'd like one more year of Travis Kelce, I'd like him to retire after catching a pass from Patrick Mahomes. Not necessarily Chris Oladokun. That's not Chris Oladokun's fault, but I've thought about it quite a bit this year, and it could be the end. And I'm going to watch and appreciate that game as if it will be the end, I suppose, because I don't want to be surprised when it happens. To go, oh man, I let it go without really appreciating it. And look, we talked about this a ton last year on Only Weird Games because it felt like, hey, this could be it. Hey, maybe this is the last Travis Kelce game. If this is the last Travis Kelce game, don't blink and miss it. I'd like to have it feel a little better than this does because this season has been such an outlier. Maybe that's as good a reason as any. Say, hey, you know what? This season was weird. Season didn't go how we wanted it to. I can't control that. I've had 2 Hall of Fame careers, and I can go now. If that's where it ends up being, that's totally, totally fine. The other thing I'll say, and I mentioned this a little bit on Weird Games yesterday, I have to declare this when it happens because it stuns people so much. I'm not quite following Seth Kaiser's line of thinking on Travis Kelce 2026, and he's not saying the opposite of this, I don't think. But Seth has said a couple times, like, you know what? The best thing for this offense might be that they have to replace Travis Kelce. That he retires, and you cannot fall back into the 90% snap share that they've fallen back into so many times because no one else has successfully stepped up to replace Travis Kelce. Seth agreed when I said yesterday, that's not Travis Kelce's fault. So I know we're on the same page there still. But I have like two prongs of concern with that. One is just that if you can't develop with Travis Kelce there, why should I believe you're going to have an easier, better, more successful time developing young talent without Travis Kelce there? He's been in the offense forever. He is constantly noted as both a master of the offense and of the energy you have to bring to practice every day, to training camp every day. I understand that him retiring would leave a bit of a power vacuum and an energy vacuum that someone's got to step up and fill. Do you think Rashee Rice is ready to do that? I don't know that I do. Do you think Xavier Worthy is ready to do that? I don't know that I do. Do you think Carnell Tate is ready to do that? You'd better pick him! I think that there is reason for concern about how the Chiefs have not ever made life easier on Travis Kelce. These last couple of years have been way harder and have weighed way more heavily on Travis Kelce than they should have. Last year, there were some injuries and all of that. This year, don't have that excuse. Worthy got hurt early. Rice was suspended for 6 weeks, which you knew was coming eventually. Hollywood never reached the potential. Worthy never reached the potential. Rice never reached the potential. And Seamus, picking up the Seth point here, so it's not that they can't develop with Kelce there, it's that Kelce is the comfort shell for the offensive coaching staff. They'll just try to go right into that shell again if he stays. I'll ask you, what will they do if he leaves? And if that's the case, even if that's totally true, and even if you believe that they will find their evolution without Travis Kelce, that's not his fault. If you just want to criticize that process and criticize the coaching staff and say they fall back on a 36-year-old tight end too often this year after doing it to a 35-year-old tight end last year and maybe after onto a 37-year-old tight end next year, that's fine. Just point it in the right direction. Travis Kelce should not have to recuse himself for the offense to evolve. Their best window to let it evolve was to have that baton handed off from Kelce to Rice. But Rice gets hurt last year. He's suspended for stupid stuff this year. And then once he gets back, you have a couple games of it, never really gels. So I'm not arguing at all that Kelce is a huge security blanket for Mahomes, for the coaching staff, all of that. But that's their thing to figure out. That's for Mahomes to find his next guy. I think if this offense without Travis Kelce this year, I don't think was running under center anymore. I think Noah Gray would have gotten more targets and the offense just would have been worse. So that succession plan should have already been in place. They needed to be ready for the possibility that he was going to retire after the Super Bowl last year. If they would have won, it would have made a ton of sense for him to retire on the three-peat. So I think the topic there is very, very valid. I am just pushing away from making that a Travis Kelce topic as much as it is an offensive quarterbacking schematic coaching problem of, we just can't move on until the greatest tight end of all time retires. And it's also not like he's been single-handedly saving the offense. The offense has struggled mightily over stretches these last couple years. They should have, that message has been delivered. So now it's on them to adjust. And they need to adjust and evolve just as bad with or without Travis Kelce on this team next year. If I had my druthers, I would like to see Travis Kelce be out here. Terry says, could be Wiley. Who knows? You know who doesn't think it's Jared Wiley? The Chiefs. I'm guessing. Because he doesn't play. He was a healthy scratch all year. He shows up, he plays a little bit when Noah Gray's out, and now these last few weeks, like, you know what? Let's see what Jared Wiley gets and how he gets involved. He's not involved. So that's the thing for me. I like Jared Wiley out of the draft. I love the Jalen Royals pick. I like Jeffrey Bassa. I love the Brashard Smith pick in the 7th round. This offense has been built out of Travis Kelce and Kareem Hunt and Juju Smith-Schuster for 2 years now. It's look, that is a valid thing to pull your hair out about, for sure. I would be happy for Kenyon Sadiq to learn from Travis Kelce for a year before being put in a position where he's the next man up. So I'll leave it at that. I want to have a good several minutes here to talk about the multimedia roundup. We'll do that on the other side. My best of 2025 right after this.
Hey, what's happening, people? It is Benny Heiss, KCSN betting analyst. And while the Chiefs may not be in the playoffs, that doesn't mean there is not plenty of action to go around for the rest of you that are still crazy fans of the National Football League. And with DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL, it makes every playoff moment feel bigger. So whether you're looking at individual matchups in the wild card, or for a possible Super Bowl matchup, or for futures come postseason time, DraftKings has your back, and they also have your back with early exit protection. If the player in your eligible NFL prop goes down at any point in the first half, guess what? You can still get paid in cash. What an opportunity. What a way to be able to enjoy the playoffs and not worry about anybody that you include in those props going down, especially early on, and ruining the rest of all of your legs. So here's what you do. You download the DraftKings Sportsbook app, use the code KCSN, that is code KCSN, to turn $5 into $300 in bonus bets if your bet wins. In partnership with DraftKings, the crown is yours. Remember, if you have a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. New York, call 8778-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. Connecticut, call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino in Kansas, wager tax pass-through may apply in Illinois. You must be 21 plus in most states. Void in Ontario. Restrictions apply. Bet must win to receive bonus bets which expire in 7 days. Minimum odds required. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/audio. Limited time offer.
Thank you, Benny. Let's get into the media roundup here. The best of 2025. I've got a long list and several different genres of media to move through. I'm going to start with movies because this year I just decided to make a point to actually log all of mine. You can follow me on Letterboxd at JB Brisco if you want. I really don't care if you do. Like, I'm happy to have you if you do. It's okay if you don't. If you don't care, you're not on Letterboxd already, that's okay. I did it this year because I wanted to log movies that I had watched and to try to up my time up watching the big screen as opposed to my time watching the little screen. 20-second videos at a time for 2 hours is the same as watching a 2-hour movie, except for you remember the 2-hour movie when it's over. And, don't just wake up from a haze like you've just blacked out because you've been on Instagram Reels for an embarrassingly long time. So a bunch of these here, I've got movies that I saw this year for the first time, and 3 movies that came out this year that one of them I forgot came out this year. Movies that have been out for a minute that I watched this year and thought were excellent. You guys ever seen Jaws? The movie with the big shark? Good movie. Watched it on the 50-year anniversary of it coming out, and yeah, who knew? On that note, 2001: A Space Odyssey. It's older than most of us here right now. Great movie. Who knew? 2001: A Space Odyssey was honestly an awesome viewing experience because from the jump, you go like, oh, this is what every sci-fi movie from this point forward was either directly or indirectly referencing in the entire history of movies since. It is very fun to go back and revisit some or just visit in my case, incredibly formative movies that influenced so much of cinema from that point forward. 2001: A Space Odyssey, unbelievable. Airplane, finally watched it. Naked Gun, finally watched it. Also, classics for good reason. Not as old of a classic, but a somewhat newer classic. Popstar, Never Stop, Never Stopping. I don't watch a ton of comedy movies. Was never my favorite genre of film. But I gave that a shot mostly because Craig Stout. Really, I think I got a clean sweep of the KCSN fellows who had seen it. Ice Pirate says Blade Runner is like that too. We watched Blade Runner and Blade Runner 2049 this year. I had seen both of them before, so I'm not adding it in there for this year's watch through. But Blade Runner is absolutely like that as well. Popstar is Andy Samberg, the Lonely Island guys. It's really funny. The music is great. I loved Lonely Island. Somehow I never saw that movie. Excellent button on that. 3 movies that came out within the last few years that we watched this year that was fantastic. Poor Things with Emma Stone. Hundreds of Beavers, which I talked about a little bit earlier in this show, earlier this year. A black and white slapstick, very Looney Toony movie that was made with no budget in the middle of winter in, I think, Minnesota or something. Just remarkable, a remarkable film. And Everything Everywhere All at Once. It got nominated for a bunch of awards 3 years ago, I think. Also just like a shockingly good sci-fi movie that when I say sci-fi, I barely mean that. Like that, I think that is the right, it is sort of science fiction, but in a way that I don't know, reminded me more of more of Inception than of anything with, space aliens. A jarringly good movie that I don't want to talk all that much more about, other than that you should see Everything Everywhere All at Once. Ice Pyro asks if I've seen Hot Rod. I have. Years ago, one of my dear friends in college showed me, several of us watched it, and it was very formative for him, and it took a minute for me to get into the right headspace, and I should rewatch it now, if for no other reason than as a favor to him. 3 movies that came out this year. Riley says Sinners and One Battle After Another came out this year and were excellent. I have heard that both of those were excellent, and I've seen neither of them. I also haven't seen Marty Supreme yet, because I'm a fraud. All 3 of those are high on my list to get to here early in 2026. My three top movies here, I think, that came out this year that I believe that were my top rated from 2025. Wake Up Dead Man, the new Knives Out movie, just came out a couple of weeks ago. Very, very good. The Phoenician Scheme is the latest Wes Anderson movie. I forgot it came out this year, and then we rewatched it on my birthday. I was like, you know what? We haven't rewatched it yet. Now is the time. Really excellent. Probably not one of my top 3 Wes Anderson movies, I guess, but my Letterboxd profile says if I really like a movie, it gets 4 stars. If I love a movie, it gets 4.5 stars. And if it's a Wes Anderson movie, it gets 5 stars. That's how my ratings work. I am not here to be overly critical. If the movie accomplishes what it feels like it set out to do, and I enjoyed it, we're around that 4-star range as as the barometer there. So I'm happy to just enjoy well-made movies with an artistic light behind them and something to say. And I think that's true of everything that I mentioned there. And then my favorite movie to tell people about this year, I guess it may have had a tiny release in 2024, but I saw it still in a very small release in 2025. It's a movie called Ephus. It is a very small indie movie about 2 adult baseball teams playing their last game at a field in its final game. It is a movie about not wanting to go inside when it gets dark, and it's beautiful. It's beautiful. It's slow. It is about the pace, moves at about the pace of actual baseball, but with more mic'd up players and personalities. I love it. It's spelled Ephus, like the pitch, EEPHUS. Just adored that movie. Saw it twice in theaters, and then it wasn't in theaters within 500 miles of here anytime after that. Really love that. Would really recommend it very, very highly. I'm going to hit my Spotify Wrapped here now that we never really talked about in too much detail, and then I'll give you my 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 games of the year. How about that? I don't know if that's even exactly how I want to put it, but my favorite album of this year was The Crux by Joe. DJO is the artist name. You may know him as Joe Keery, who you may know as Steve from Stranger Things. I don't know what happened to Steve from Stranger Things within the last 2 weeks of Stranger Things releases, so don't tell me about it. But I don't care as much about Steve from Stranger Things as much as I care about Joe, the musician, because this album ripped. There is a deluxe version, also great. It's shocking that he has put out 3 full-length albums now, plus the deluxe version of The Crux. They're all fabulous. We went and saw him live at Grinders in KCMO earlier this year, a month or so ago. 2 months maybe. Great live. Just couldn't be more impressed, could not be more up my alley. Huge fan of everything that he's done musically so far. My top 5 albums by listenership this year were The Crux by Joe, from the private collection of Saba and No ID by Saba and No ID. That was a Nate Taylor recommendation early in the year. I listened to it a ton in like February and March, I think. Breach by 21 Pilots. Saw that from Riley in the chat. End of an era for them and maybe the beginning of a long hiatus. I really enjoyed it. My fandom peaked at Blurry Face and Trench, but I thought Breach was a very good return to form, and Center Mass has the best 30 seconds of any 21 Pilots music from the last 5 years. GNX by Kendrick Lamar was my number 4 album of the year, and Starline by Chance the Rapper. Talk about a return to form. Chance the Rapper's back, and it was good. I was very surprised that Let God Sort 'Em Out by Clips was not on here. That was, I would have said, was probably my second favorite album of the year, and there's individual songs from that all over my Spotify Wrapped on the year, but that's where that ended up. My top 5 artists were Joe, James Blake, Kendrick Lamar, 21 Pilots, and Tyler, the Creator, who also had a really good project come out this year, Don't Tap the Glass. And I just listened to a lot of James Blake, again, especially in the spring. He had an album a couple years ago, James Blake and Lil Yachty, did a collab album that is as weird as it sounds, and it's really fun. I'm a big fan. And that's it from the music side. Are you ready for video games? Or I could tell you about podcasts also. Actually, it's almost 1 o'clock. I'm almost done talking for a straight hour by myself. I really could I might just start streaming in the off season. It's like, hey Tucker, don't worry about KCSN Live. I'm just going to sit here. I'm going to turn this camera on for 6 hours a day, and we're just going to see where we go. Favorite games of the year. I'm going to work bottom up here, I think. College Football 26 was fun. I played it a lot. I did the Dynasty mode quite a bit. I dipped back in just a few weeks ago to the Dynasty mode. Been playing with my brother regularly. Oh, Seamus says no Glass Animals. What happened? I was wearing my Glass Animals shirt yesterday. No new album is what happened for Glass Animals. They're in the mix, but I was thinking I didn't really stick with the album called I Love You So Much, because this is a family-friendly show. I am very heavily influenced by artists I love coming out with an album in that year. That's why last year was dominated by Glass Animals and Childish Gambino, I think were my top 2 last year. And that might have been a Tyler, the Creator year too. So yeah, that's the main that's the main thing that dictates who I listen to the most. I love looking forward to a new album from an artist I'm really invested in, and then just beating the hell out of that album for 6 months, and then giving it a little break, and then returning later and seeing. And I was literally thinking, Seamus, I can see the tour T-shirt here. I was thinking yesterday, I had to go back through the Glass Animals discography and just sort of let it catch me again. But I think that's a springtime pickup, most likely. So College Football 26 was weirdly impacted by that mobile game I told you about a while back, Ultimate Football GM 3. Started playing that on my phone again a couple days ago. I just basically do it as a little dynasty simulator. You can do it on your phone. It's kind of nice. So that was good. Mario Kart World I got with the Switch 2, and kind of got the Switch 2 to kick off the zeitgeist enjoying that it would bring. Mario Kart World was good. It was fun. I enjoyed it. I have not gone back into it casually. There is not enough guidance in the open world area, the free roam, if you will. I played it some since. I fire it up when friends come over. I'm not diving back into it. Similar. Well, no, that's not true. So that's Mario Kart World. I had another Switch 2. That I'll mention an addendum here. There's a new Cult of the Lamb big paid DLC coming out this month sometime. So I've been playing Cult of the Lamb again on the Switch 2, which has been great because I stopped playing Cult of the Lamb on my Switch 1 because it couldn't keep up with all the cultists I had in my little cult. So evergreen recommendation for Cult of the Lamb. I think it's delightful, and it gives me enough base management to do to split up all the roguelike elements. If you just like the fighting, and I really need to be playing this again more than I'm playing Cult of the Lamb currently, Hades 2 is excellent. It came out, the full version came out this year. It'd been out in early access for a while. If you liked Hades, now there's 2 of them. Hades was incredible. Hades 2 is excellent. I enjoy the other, currency within the game and adding a little bit more of the home-based stuff. I like that a lot. I stopped playing Hades 2, though, when Pokemon Legends ZA came out. And this is one that it's hard for me to talk about, because I'm not sure that it's a good game. I am sure that I've probably played it for like 100 hours already, and probably am not going to stop terribly short. I finally got the shiny charm. I've really got some shinies to hunt. The DLC's pretty good. Kept me into it for a little while longer. Iced Pyro, you wait until the last one I'm going to say, Iced Pyro. Don't get ahead of me now. Don't get ahead of me now in the chat. If you love Pokemon, and especially if you love Pokemon Legends Arceus, Legends ZA is right there with it. I really like the gameplay. I understand that if you're like not in a Pokemon headspace, don't play it. No worries. I'm not going to hold it against you. But Arceus is great. ZA is very, very good. And I liked it. And you can't stop me. This is what Riley says. That's the thing about Pokemon. It doesn't have to be quote unquote good. If you want to play Pokemon, here's more Pokemon. I understand. I don't want Game Freak to just be EA where you can just put here's Madden 25, 26, 27, 20, and just print money. I want the next generation of Pokemon to have some more evolutions to it. No pun intended, like the gameplay. But this is different gameplay. This is not turn-based. It's real-time. I think it's fun. I think it's a little bit of a bad rep because Pokemon has stagnated in several places. I don't think this is a place where it stagnated. I think this is a place where it sings. Anyway. Clover Pit. Small game, indie game, on Steam. You play a haunted slot machine, essentially. Very similar vibes to Inscription, one of my favorite games of all time, but instead of a card game setup, it is a slot machine setup. It's fun. It's very good. I think the best 2 games I played this year, 2, Donkey Kong Bonanza on the Switch 2, a delight. Totally destructible world, very fun gameplay, lots of little hidden treats throughout that make exploring it feel fun. It's very satisfying to play. You can relax and plow through the open world, or you can kind of lock in and get some decently challenging boss fights here and there. Just a really excellent game that I've also heard has kind of a fun, chaotic 2-player mode. I've only played it single player, but I really like Donkey Kong Bonanza. I wouldn't tell you to spend $600 on a Switch and DK Bonanza just to play it, but if you got a Switch and you're on the fence about, do I want to get Mario Kart or Donkey Kong Bonanza or something else, I think Donkey Kong Bonanza does a very good job of showcasing what the Switch 2 does well. It's very fun. But my favorite game of the year, I haven't touched in months, to be fair, but Renee and I played Blueprints, which is a game. All right, that's the end of the show. Bye. I don't want to talk about Blueprints very much because it is a mystery to unpack it. Man, I hadn't thought about how I was going to talk about Blueprints without telling you too much about Blueprints. It's very good. There's a little bit of a small exploration, a little bit of resource management, a little bit of, it's more, I would say it's almost like a board game, the way, like some of the board games where you flip over tiles as you discover new rooms and things like that. But it does such a good job of giving you just a little bit of a carrot to keep you following, and then it reveals more and more of itself as you play. It's really good. It's really clever. It's very smart. It makes you feel smart for being good at it. It's just excellent. I don't think, at this point, Renee and I are out of practice enough. I don't think we're going to, 100% it or anything, but we beat the main story and some, and I feel like there's still quite a bit left. So I just really, really enjoyed Blueprints. I think it's worth playing if you have any interest whatsoever. I think it might still be free on PlayStation Plus. I don't think I've ever bought it. I think it was free on PlayStation Plus, and that's where we played it. It was great. Ice Pyro says also, if you love Blueprints, check out The Return of the Obra Dinn. I've had that on my Switch for years, and I'll remind Renee later, hey, we have a couple of these games. I'd also kind of like to play Dispatch, out this year. Not a mystery, but I'm thinking about the big TV thing. Look, there's a lot of other games that I've heard about that sound great. If you want to hear those talked about, here's a podcast rec for you on the way out. One of my absolute favorite podcasts for a very long time is The Besties with Justin McElroy, Griffin McElroy, Chris Plant, and Rush Frushtick. Chris Plant is a Chiefs and Royals fan and a former Kansas Cityan and all of that, so you get an extra reason to give him your ear. But I love that show. It's been an amazing thing for literally more than a decade now. They just had their Game of the Year bracket episode come out. Blueprints is not in the bracket because there's not a colorblind mode, which eliminated Frush from being able to play it. A very fair distinction that they made, where I hope they revisit it next year because it just freaking rules. But also, it's not that fun to talk about unless you've played it. So go check that out if you want other game recommendations of games like Expedition 33 that I'm just probably never going to play, but I enjoy hearing people talk about it. There are only so many hours in our lives, and I appreciate you for spending another one with us here on Everything Else. I appreciate KC Cannabis Company online at kccannabis.com, and I appreciate the Mystery Snail. bit.ly/mystery snail if you want the Mystery Snail to visit you once a month for the year, or as long as you want, I guess. I don't know. That's up to the snail and Renee. But you can join the Mystery Snail Mail Art Club at bit.ly/mystery snail or renaissance.art/club. Thanks to everybody for hanging out. I hope you had a very happy and safe new year. We'll take a very short break, and then I'll be back again on Monday to talk about the official end of the 2025-2026 Kansas City Chiefs season, and we'll begin looking to the future in earnest. So until then, bye, Mom. Now, where's that outro music? Close enough. I guess we talk here too. I didn't start any comments. I hope I responded to things. I didn't even mean to click that one. Oh, God, I shouldn't be in charge. Bye, Mom. I can't believe I talked for an hour and 5 minutes. Well, no, I can't believe that. I thought about it again, and I definitely can't believe that.